Good afternoon on what is a bright, mild but breezy day. It is Tuesday, February the 1st, back in the Read Nook with a nice hot cup of tea and a box to delve into. So let's get started. And the first thing I'm going to pull out is that. Gathox Vertical Slum. A far-out science fiction fantasy setting for Swords and Wizardry White Box Edition and other classic games. Welcome to Gathox Vertical Slum, a far-out gonzo science fantasy setting for Swords and Wizardry White Box Edition and other classic tabletop role-playing games. Aliens, mutants, spellslingers and hardened criminals struggle for dominance in a lawless city built upon the back of a wandering, world-hopping godling. Inside this term you'll find a fully mapped and fleshed out vertical slum stuffed to the gills with greedy factions, hook-laden NPCs and seedy locations. A new gangland system for running domain-level games at level 1. 43 illustrated and strange and inimical monsters to spring on unsuspecting players. New classes, skills, ability checks, hirelings and gear for players to work their will across the mean streets of the Great Spire. A vertical dungeon introduction adventure to test the skills and resourcefulness of new and seasoned players alike. And over 100 illustrations and 5 pieces of connected chapter fiction. And this comes from DIY RPG, who also published the excellent Barbarians of Ruined Earth, a post-apocalyptic setting inspired by Saturday morning cartoons. But this, Gathox Vertical Slum, is a setting a bit different than you expect. So essentially, instead of a city spread out, it's built up, and it is basically it's the kind of setting that I kind of like because it's different. And that different means is it's going to be interesting. So and in this setting, there's basically a vertical slum on top of a godling. Sort of reminds me of the more recent Genial Jack, 2 volumes published by Lost Pages, and which is set in a giant god whale. Where basically there's a city and a society and so on, there is essentially a dungeon through the Alimentary Canal and that sort of thing, and it's all really interesting. But again, that's Genial Jack, not Gathox Vertical Slum. So let's have a look inside. So, the introduction, and it tells you that this is the author's home campaign. Before we get into the fiction, and you can see the first of the artwork there, it's pretty decent actually. It nicely captures the roughness of the environment, and then we give a more of an overview explaining what Gathox is, and it's a wandering godling, and upon first approach. And more of the artwork. Again, I do like the artwork. It's got it captures the rough nature of the city, and we've got a good overview with the education and technology, resources and oddly, religion and antibiotics. Interesting combination of subjects. Before we get into describing the slum itself, and we've got 3 sections, and we've got a full map location there. Okay. And more of the fiction, but welcome to the neighbourhood. It's basically delving into the first of the neighbourhoods of the slum. So it's not quite as vertical as I thought it might well be, but it is built up quite literally. So we've got, and here's the first of the section. We've got basically does it as an excerpt and focusing down upon individual locations within that neighbourhood. So we've got like the important NPCs of the kettle, complete with portraits. That's a nice touch. Instant feel for those characters. So lots of them again, nice little portraits, thumbnail description, and basically easy to bring it into the game. Then we go on to the Birken favela, the second neighbourhood, and it's going to be doing the same. And again, same format, which really works. I really like that. It's nice and accessible and easy to read. And then the crawl. And you get the feel through these NPCs of the alien nature of the world. It's very different. You've got insectoid species, which is basically an odd race there. I'm sure they'll explain who and what they are later on, as well as humans. And then what else we've got the cosmology, gods and antibodies, and presumably, if you're on the body of a godling, you might actually be the antibodies, I would suppose. Here we have the different gods. I believe that's the approach they're taking. And then we get onto the characters and house rules. So we have Gothic characters, classes like the militant, the street tough, the soldier, and so on, ready for play. Different characters: spiritualist, faith healers, cosmic doctor, dealing with wild magic. Just general overview and providing sort of like the types of characters you might encounter and play. It's a science fiction set, it's a science fantasy setting, so you've got mutants and psychic powers as well. With beneficial mutations and negative mutations. And then you've got actual class titles. For those of you who like that sort of thing with your class and level role-playing game of your choice. Tables of weapons, nothing too radical there. But you've got, it expands it so you do include things like laser weapons and slingshot shotguns, rifles and so on, revolvers. And then specialty gear descriptions like chug boots, sturdy mechanical boots that enable you to carry more, gutter gills, fish-like helmets provide air filtering in hostile environments. So more gear descriptions there. Some of it a bit odd, but again, all in keeping. And then we've got building and an empire and running the game. So this will be essentially the idea presumably is that you are gangs dealing with building a gang, building a reputation, building a territory, going up against rival gangs and dealing with them, and making a name for yourself. So you can basically come all to the end of putting it all together and running the game. Before we get into a bestiary, beginning there. So we've got alien races, again all fully illustrated. So lots of those, indigenous species as well, some of them a little odd. Like the Agonacronlast, which is a likely byproduct of technology, waste and rubble. They're dimly aware, self-replicating techno-trash which filters and recycles waste and rock to produce more of their kind. And you get the weirdness of things like flat earthers, a wrecking ball on stilts, or head of state as big as a head on a scooter. So there's the, you've got the flat earther and then the head of state. So you've got a bit of absurdity thrown in there as well. I mean, invasive species as well. And mutants, freaks. So quite a wide variety of creatures and difficulties for the player characters to deal with throughout the game. Some are really quite weird. But again, what would you've got a mash-up between science fiction, science and fantasy. So, yeah. Even walking cancer. The vast pollution of Gathox breeds monsters of its own. So that's a nice touch. It's not a safe place. It's a vile place in some ways, but it's your home, and you're going to make your mark upon it, of course. And then we have the adventure in the bowels of the modelling mansions. So yeah, interesting book so far. This is the adventure. We've got a dungeon map for the modelling mansions there as well. A miscellanea you've got in the appendix. Hirelings, simple sample unusual items of great value, complete tables in the back as well. So yeah, it's for handling everything from territory bids, types of gangs, that kind of thing. So everything you need to play in a campaign by the rules, and then we've got an inspirational and its own appendix N at the end. So that is Gathox Vertical Slum from DIY RPG. Interesting book. I look forward to digging into that and giving it a review in due course. Well, thank you very much for watching another unboxing in the Nook. If you've enjoyed this, please do click the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me with a package and a book or game which I'll pull out and talk about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit that subscribe button. Once again, thank you very much for watching another unboxing in the Nook, and we'll be back again soon. Bye for now.